What is up, you guys? Teller checking in for the recap of UFC Vegas 70. Of course, the main storyline was the fact that the centerpiece and main event of this fight card, Nikita Krylov versus Ryan Spann, did not take place. We all found this out as the fight card was taking place. Obviously, it was a major disappointment. This wasn't a fight card that was extremely stacked to begin with, and I'm sure a lot of you guys were really looking forward to this fight like I was. The good news, first and foremost, is this fight's going to be taking place within a couple weeks. I believe it's going to be on the main card of that Piotr Yan versus Merab main event fight card there. So taking place in Las Vegas, and that's a good thing. And for those of you guys that were upset that you didn't see the fight, try to put yourself in Nikita's shoes. I'm sure some of you guys can empathize with him there, having a stomach issue. Imagine trying to make the walk and trying to fight another man while you're going through a stomach issue. For those of you guys that have lactose problems, or for some of you guys that have had the stomach bug, I can relate to both of those situations. When I grew up, I was a little bit lactose, so I've had some serious pain in my stomach before from drinking milk. I've been on the toilet. I've had many deep conversations with God as I was bracing the toilet. Other than that, I personally have flown into Vegas and I've had a horrible stomach bug within the second day of being there. It took me out for a complete day. I was strapped to the toilet seat in the hotel room. I would try to run down, throw some craps or whatnot. I had to run right back up to the room. It took me out for a complete day. Luckily enough for me, the following day I woke up and I was completely fine. But I can definitely relate to Nikita there. There's no way you're trying to make that walk and fight somebody. That ain't about toughness either. That's just about physics. All right, because if you go out and you try to make that fight, you're going to embarrass yourself there. It's going to be a mess in the octagon. So it was what it was. And that now that we get that out the way, let's jump into the rest of the fights that we have to talk about in regards to UFC Vegas 70. Let's get to it.
Welcome to the show. This is the MMA fortune teller. Yeah.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller.
So as we jump into the first fight of the card, we did have official action on this fight. But real quick as well, we initially had 5 official plays locked in. We did lose one of those plays when Jose Johnson did have to withdraw from his match there against Garrett Armfield. I did have some action on Jose Johnson there at underdog odds. Hopefully that fight will be taking place in the near future. Jose's a great dude. He was commenting on my IG, man. Seems to be in good spirits. What a class act there. But we did have a 4-unit play on Nurullo Aliyev to defeat Rafael Alves. We caught that at -175. This fight played out pretty much just like I thought it would have. If Nurullo was able to avoid that guillotine choke, or by being clipped with an early shot by the very quick, twitchy, and explosive Rafael Alves, I really felt that Aliyev was just going to take over this fight with his pace and his grappling. That's exactly what he did. Now, I'd be remiss if I don't mention the fact that who was it? Mark, the referee, Mark, I forgot his last name. Seems to be a great dude. He was on the Joe Rogan Experience. He's a veteran. In fact, he was an actual an Air Force pilot. He's a solid dude, but I don't know what he was doing in this fight, taking a point away from Nurullo Aliyev for biting down on Rafael Alves' finger as Alves was fish hooking Aliyev, and you really couldn't see what was going on when they tried to run the tape back because they were kind of covered up as Aliyev was on top of Alves. You couldn't really see. But nevertheless, if Aliyev did bite down, that's exactly what you should do. If someone's sticking their fingers in your mouth and they're fish hooking your face, trying to pull veteran tactics, bite down on that. I don't care. And at the very least, Mark, I believe his name is Mark. I don't know why his name's not coming to me right now, but give a stern warning. I don't know. I understand that the whole the aspect of seeing someone bite, it seems really bad, so you have to take that point away, but kind of understand that the other guy was the one sticking his fingers in his mouth in the first place, so give him a warning as well. Give them both stern warnings. I didn't like that at all. And then as you saw, one of the judges actually gave that first round to Rafael Alves, which I thought was obviously the wrong move there. I thought Aliyev still dominated that round, or at the very least controlled that round, should have won it. And, if there was another ignorant judge out there, all of a sudden Aliyev's in a position to, at the best case scenario, pull off a draw, which is just, it's not fair. It ain't right, in my opinion. I thought that Aliyev was done dirty there. Luckily, the other 2 judges were seeing things straight, and they gave Aliyev all 3 rounds. So even though he had that point deduction, it didn't really matter. A lot of people have been throwing around the fact that Aliyev seems to be very similar to a Khabib. Obviously, These comparisons are very preliminary. But you know what? Think about it like this real quick. And I'm not saying that Aliyev's going to go on to do Khabib things. Maybe he does. Maybe he doesn't. He's undefeated. Just understand that he's extremely young. He's one of the youngest fighters on the roster. He's 22 years old. And what he just went out there and did against a fighter in Rafael Alves, who I have a lot of respect for. He's a dangerous fighter if you don't really understand that. A fighter that's more mature, has a lot more experience. Aliyev has he shows to me that he has a lot of promise, because can you imagine how Narulo is going to look when he's 28 years old? I mean, this guy's going to push the pace on a lot of fighters. He's going to break them. He already shows to have really good willpower in his fights. Some of those chokes are pretty tight on him, and he was never thinking about getting out of there. He fought them. He fought those chokes off very, very well, very technical. I like what I've seen from the kid. Needs to work on his striking. But listen, I'm not trying to compare him to Khabib here, but there are a lot of similarities in his fighting style and all that. I mean, he really tries to clone what Khabib does, obviously just at a lower level. But give the kid some time, and let's just see if he carves out his own name in the game. He's a very promising fighter, and I was happy to see him come through for me there, obviously cashing that bet. As we work our way to the next fight, our boy Joe Solecki defeats Carl Deaton, submits him there in the second round. And, Joe Solecki was in complete control of this fight from the very get-go. Solecki has, I don't know if I want to say underrated grappling. I hope you guys understand how good he is at taking the opposition's back, controlling them with that body triangle, and looking to end the fight with the sub there. He's really a promising fighter, and I want to see him get another step up in competition. I know he did fall short in that Jared Gordon fight, but I think he was a little off, like I said, and I want to see him get another big name in the game here. Solecki's a very talented dude there. So then we work our way over to the O'Day Osborne versus Charles Johnson fight. This was a tough one for me here. I did have a 4-unit play on Charles Johnson. I do know that he took this fight on short notice, but if you guys remember, Johnson was calling to jump back into the octagon immediately after what he just did to Jimmy Flick. He said that he was staying ready, and he was ready to go at any time. And I didn't think his cardio was going to be an issue. And he did seem to be breathing very heavily as the third round ended. That being said, I still felt that he won this fight. I thought it was very close, but I thought that he took this fight. And I think you could argue that he won every round, although they were close. They were very close rounds, all right? And if you thought that O'Day won the fight, no shame there. It was a very close fight. But you take a look at the significant strikes landed. Charles Johnson lands 74 compared to O'Day's 50 strikes. If you're talking about significant strikes landed, let alone just total strikes, significant strikes by target, Charles Johnson landing 28 significant strikes to the head compared to O'Day's 17 strikes to the head. They were even to the body, 10-10. And in fact, Charles Johnson even outlanded O'Day to the legs as well, 22-21. So outlanding O'Day. O'Day was taken down in the first round very briefly. I thought that Charles solidified that round with that, just putting on a little bit of an onslaught on him there, solidifying that round. In the third round, when Charles was breathing heavy, he was kind of taken down as he was kind of going for that guillotine, and then he did work his way up to his feet pretty much immediately every time. Maybe he was on his back for a couple seconds there, but always got back up. And when he got back up to end that fight, even though he was exhausted, he was landing the cleaner shots. Run the tape back. He was landing some clean shots and in an exhausted fashion, and O'Day was missing. So I thought that was enough to give Charles that round as well. Even if you gave O'Day that round, I thought Charles won the second round. I just thought that Charles was landing cleaner throughout that fight, and I was a little disappointed to see that split not go my way there with that bet, but it is what it is. I'm not going to sit here and complain. I'm not calling robbery. It was a very close fight. You guys let me know how you thought that fight went. From what I've seen online, the majority did think Charles Johnson won that fight. All right, in the next fight, Jordan Levitt goes out there and puts Victor Martinez in the clinch and cracks him up with some knees. We're seeing evolution from Jordan Levitt. Shout out to Levitt. I did have a small play on Victor Martinez. I thought Victor Martinez could have stuffed the takedowns and would have outstruck Levitt there, and that wasn't the case. But I stand behind that underdog stab on Victor Martinez. I learned my lesson here. Jordan Levitt, I was more just worried about his grappling, but hey, this is the fight game. He's shown evolution. Good for him. He went out to the press conference after the fight in his Disco Inferno shoes, and he's calling his shots. You gotta admire Jordan Levitt, man. He's a funny dude. So nothing but respect there. And Victor Martinez, that's a very disappointing performance, and I think that he might be dissipating from the UFC here very soon. Jasmine, Jessica Vicious takes out Gabriela Fernandez. I think Fernandez showed some things that she could do well on the feet. She's a nasty striker, but the takedown defense wasn't there at all, and Jasmine pushed the pace there, broke Gabriela. That was a big performance by Jasmine. I think that was a victory that was very much needed for her career. And shout out to her there. Now, Eric Gonzalez gets knocked out by my boy Trevor Peek. You guys know this was a huge play of mine. 5-unit play. Grabbed it at minus 190 odds, nice and early. You guys know I gave this free play out to you guys as well. Listen, I'm not sitting here telling you guys that Trevor Peek's going to be the next champion in the division. But what I'm telling you guys is there's certain things that he does very well. But this most importantly was a fade on Eric Gonzalez. I said that he's not a UFC caliber opponent, and I think that was proven. And although Trevor Peek needs to really refine some things because he's way too reckless with the way he's just throwing those bombs, although it paid off again for him. Obviously, there was times where he was getting too overzealous and he was taken down, but he worked his way right back up to his feet. I told you guys, I think that he has a real gas tank. We know that he's an ex-addict. We know that he's a guy that just is obsessed with training at this point in time. And although he doesn't have a lot of pro fights, a lot of people didn't realize that he's been training MMA from at a younger age compared to an Eric Gonzalez. Peek's been in the fight game for a while, although he doesn't have as many pro fights. Trevor Peek, if he refines some things, he might be able to hang around in the UFC for some time to come and put on a devastating knockout performance or a very entertaining fight here and there. But against the more refined fighters, I do believe that he will be taken down or he will be hit with a counter shot. And eventually, although he has a granite chin, yeah, he will be put out because he's there to be hit as well. But Eric Gonzalez was never going to be that guy. I'm telling you guys that right now. And that's 2 for 2 on the free plays that we've given here on the channel. And you guys could expect more of that coming your guys' way. And you guys know we're doing some matchmaking for the top 5 fighters on this fight card. So I'm matching Trevor Peek up with Nazim Sadykhov. How about this? We talked about those 2 free plays that I gave here in the channel that have cashed. Well, these were the 2 men that cashed for me. I'm going to match them up now. I think that this has all the makings to be an extremely fun fight. Both of these guys go forward. They're going to clash. Both of them throw heat. They have serious power. I do believe that Nazim's a little bit more technical, but we saw that Nazim was a little bit vulnerable to being tagged in his own right in his last fight. Maybe Peek can land a big shot. I really want to see that fight. I hope that that's the fight that they make. You guys let me know what you think about that as our first fight that we match make here. And then from there, we were talking about Mikey Mallet going out there pulling off that arm triangle choke in the first round against Johan Lainez. I really like the evolution we're seeing from Mikey Mallet. We all know him as the striking coach from Team Alpha Male. He's more of a refined striker. He's going out there landing these knockouts. How about that arm triangle choke, though, showing that he has a ground game as well. I really like what I see from Mikey Mallet. I think that he's going to prove to be a solid fighter in the UFC. He's not necessarily that young, so keep giving him solid competition in the near future, and let's see how far he could push it. I want to see him face off with Nicholas Dalby, who's coming off a nice little victory not too long ago as well, a veteran of the UFC. I think that Mike Mallet can go out there and potentially take that fight and take a lot of credit or take some of that work that Dalby's put in throughout the years and really start to solidify himself in the UFC. I think that's a fight that makes a lot of sense if you take a look at the rankings. You guys let me know what you think about that. After that, Tatiana Suarez went in, pulled off that guillotine choke on Montana De La Rosa in the second round, was pushing the pace with her wrestling and her grappling. I think that this was a huge performance by Tatiana Suarez. We already know that she's taken out some major names in the game back in the day. We know that she was coming off a major layoff. She's had injury issues and all that. This was up a weight class in the flyweight division. She's normally fighting in the strawweight division. She wants to come back down to the strawweight division, and I think that she's going to be wreaking havoc as she continues to step foot back into the octagon. Now, she was calling her shot. She was calling out Thug Rose Namajunas. Obviously, if she was able to go out and take Thug Rose out, she's instantly in the mix to fight for the title after that. I think that she needs to put in a little bit more work since returning to the octagon. So I went a little bit of a different route. I want to see her faced off with Xianin Yan, the tough Chinese mixed martial artist that's been putting in work for a little bit now. She's a dangerous fighter. She's a well-rounded fighter, but she has some nasty striking. I would love to see how they clash there. If Suarez isn't able to get those takedowns, she's going to have to showcase that she could hang with a girl like Yan on the feet. And I think that's a fight that makes a lot of sense. If she gets that victory, then we could talk about fighting a top 3 fighter in the division or moving her way into a title contention type of fight where if she wins that next fight, she's fighting for the belt. Remember now, Tatiana, you've been away for a while. You said yourself that you're willing to put that work in. You're willing to deserve the shot I think you need to win 2 more fights potentially. I know that you've taken out some big names like Carla Esparza and some of these other big names in the game, but I need to see a little bit more now in 2023. So that's the match I'm making there. You guys let me know what you think about that. And then we had Augusto Sakai take out Dontel Mays. You guys know what I said. I said that Dontel Mays hasn't looked the same ever since Kimbo Slice knocked him out in the backyard back in 2003. I just feel that Dontel Mays is just not looking like he's that professional. When he's in the cage, man, he's sloppy. And I picked Dontel Mays. I edged him to win this fight. I thought maybe he could have landed a big shot. I was kind of questioning Sakai's chin and all that. You guys know we were really on the fence with this pick here. It was a fight that I wanted nothing to do from a betting perspective. But Augusto Sakai should have been the pick. And, he's been grinding over at American Top Team. He's a lot more fundamentally sound. And again, we take a look at some of the losses that Augusto Sakai has had, even though he was coming into this fight on a major losing streak. It's all been against solid competition. And check this matchmaking that I'm doing here. I want to see Augusto Sakai take on Derek Lewis. And this fight makes perfect sense. Somebody commented already on Instagram that this fight makes no sense. I'm telling you, go check out the top 20 of the heavyweight division in the UFC, the rankings. Derek Lewis, first and foremost, is coming off a bunch of losses. And I think that he needs to take a slight step down in competition. Let Derek Lewis have a little bit of an easier fight. I don't need to see Derek Lewis go out there, fight a top contender again and take another loss. Let Derek Lewis get a little bit of, I don't even want to call it a layup fight because Augusto's looking good, but a little bit of a step down. Let Derek Lewis try to land that big knockout blow again. And if these guys have both only won one of their last 5 fights, okay? And then Augusto Sakai is coming off a win while Lewis is on a 3-fight losing skid. Augusto Sakai lost to very formidable opponents. You can argue that Augusto Sakai's resume looks better within the last 8 fights or so. Augusto Sakai was on a solid win streak before he lost those fights where he had that skid there. But again, Derek Lewis deserves a little bit of a step down in competition. Also, if you take a look at the top of the division, a lot of fighters are already matched up. Okay, so there's not a lot of openings in general. You guys go check Tapology out, take a look at the top of the division, and you guys tell me that fight doesn't make sense. And if you want, tell me who makes more sense for Derek Lewis or who makes more sense for Augusto Sakai. I would love to see what you guys think about that. All right, and then we move over to the main event here, the fight that was bumped up to the main event. Brendan Allen taking on one of the better jiu-jitsu players we've seen in the UFC over the last couple of years, Andre Muniz, and Brendan Allen goes out there and pulls off a rear naked choke. Started to really work wonders down on the mat as Andre Muniz tried to get the fight down to the mat. It was Allen that was reversing him, getting on top, and really looking good there. My respect for Brendan Allen goes up very high after this fight. The fact that he was able to go out there and sub a guy like Muniz, who I'm very high on, that was a big feather in his cap. Allen has been showing supreme confidence as of recently, and now we see why. I was kind of questioning him with that Jacob Malkoun performance that he put on not too long ago, but we're going to dust that off and really give Allen his credit here. Allen's going to be a major problem for a lot of guys in the division, and you saw him on the mic, you heard him on the mic. He was calling out a couple of guys. He wants rematches with some of the fighters that have handed him losses as of recently, like Sean Strickland, Chris Curtis. But he also said that he would like a fight with Jack Hermanson, and I think that that's a fight that actually makes a little bit more sense right now, in my opinion. Hermanson, although he's coming off a loss, still has that respectable ranking. Understand that Brendan Allen's just cracking into the top 15 now. Let him get a victory over Jack Hermanson after this win here, and then we're really starting to talk about Allen really making some buzz in the division. So that's where I'll go with that. And you guys got to let me know how you feel about the matchmaking that I did here. For the top 5 fighters that were coming off wins for UFC Vegas 70. I really would love your guys' input, so please hit that comment section up below. And that's about it. You guys, we already have the UFC 285 fight prediction video here on the channel. We uploaded that immediately after UFC Vegas 70, and that's something that you guys can expect moving forward. I'm going to really try to be on top of the ball here, getting content out to you nonstop. I told you guys about the upgrades that are coming to this channel. I really appreciate all the new subscribers and all the people that have been supporting me from the very beginning. You guys mean the world to me, and I can't wait to show you the evolution of this channel over the next year, because there's big things coming, and it's been getting me excited to be in the lab over here, just putting in work. I've been putting in hours and hours of work behind the scenes over here. So hopefully you guys like what you see, and that's going to wrap up UFC Vegas 70. And we are looking forward to UFC 285. We got a major fight week ahead of us. Hopefully you guys are all taking care of yourself, feeling good. All right, guys. Signing out. Teller.
Welcome to the show. This the MMA fortune teller. Yeah.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller.